There's my first. There, funny, I couldn't find my music. Sorry about that. That was distressing. Okay. We have a full complement, as far as I can tell. Here we are. So we have a warm-up in Canvas. Everyone can be working on that. We are going to be looking at U5, L10 traversals investigate, and you will be doing U5, L11 traversals practice for homework. That'll be due next, I think in theory we're saying next Tuesday, but next week is another crazy ABBA week. So our first class will be next Tuesday, okay? So what is due is the warm-up. U5, L8 loops make was due the 15th, is due the 15th. Traversals practice, just the fact that you've been through your practice is due the 16th. Our objective or goal is that you will be able to understand how to use a loop to traverse an array or list and trace simple programs with loop traversals by investigating 2 programs on code.org, okay? I need to stop sharing to do the warm-up because I show the answers. Some of them do, some of them don't. All right, warm-up. Okay, I am not reading everything. I will read the question. So given this array of integers, var x gets square bracket 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13 square bracket. So a list of all the odd integers 1 to 13. Which statement below will correctly find the sum of the numbers? Sorry about that misspelling. So take a look, and somebody is going to need to come up with an answer for me. You can either put it in the chat or sing out. Anyone have an answer? Anyone feeling brave? Let me, we'll use our gallery view to pick someone at random. How about Anjali? Oh, look, Lily says that it is var I equals, hang on, let me just see. Okay, you think that it's the var I?
Excuse me.
What?
Excuse me. You aren't sharing your screen.
I can't show my screen. I show the answers. There are certain ways they set up these things that I can show them and other ways that I can't. So that's all I'm saying. I'm looking, she put her answer in the chat. Evaluating var I to 1 to begin with is not going to get you the right answer. You're always going to need to start at 0. So anybody else have an idea? Thank you so much, Lily. That was very brave of you. Rebecca Liu, do you have any ideas? Anyone else? That's all right. Take a guess. This is a tricky one.
I said it was var I equals 0, while sum equals 0, and then while I is less than x length, sum plus equals x of I, and then I plus plus.
Perfect. Okay. That is exactly what I was looking for. I don't know how someone was able to copy these. Oh, I know. I bet I can. I was just going to see if I could. No, it's still not. So that is the right answer. It is, well, hang on. Let me see if I can. No, I can't correct Lily's either. It's the idea. It's the one that is var I gets 0, var sum gets 0, while parentheses I less than x period length parentheses looks like curly bracket sum plus equals x square bracket I square bracket semicolon I plus plus curly bracket. That is correct, because what is happening here is while I is smaller than x length, you add every element in, every, not element, every index in the list. So sum plus equals xi is, it is adding, for each iteration, it is going to add that index to the list. We are missing an Ethan. Okay. I'm sorry, these are so difficult to, talk through. Okay, for number 2, what is output to the console? All right, you've got var r, I think this is a pirate hat, gets, looks like square bracket 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11, square bracket, semicolon. 4, parentheses, var I gets 0, I less than r dot length, semicolon, I plus plus, parentheses, curly bracket, if r square brackets around I is less than 2, or r square brackets I is greater than 10. Console log found 1, the string found 1 in quotation marks, plus r square bracket I. Anybody have an idea? All right, we're gonna pick on someone. What about Araya Tambi?
Oh, it's Aria.
Arya?
Yeah,
And Tambi is right though?
it's Thambi.
Thambi. Perfect. Thank you for correcting me. Last thing you want is me calling you by the wrong name all year.
Yeah, of course.
So Arya.
I did.
Arya, which one do you think might be the right one?
I did found 1, 1, and found 111.
You are brilliant. Okay. Can you explain why it is just found 1 and found 11?
I think it's because I saw it only ask for 2 things.
Right. Given our list, let me, just because my mic's easier. So here we go. Now I can share, since we all know the answer. Okay. So what it's saying, you've got your list for going, as we go through the list, if R, if the index of R is less than 2, or it is greater than 10, console log found 1 plus that R and index. So the only ones in our list of 1 through 11, the only one that is less than 2 is 1, found 1, and the only one that is greater than 10 is 11. So it says found 11. If we use the old list that we had, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13, it would say found 1, found 11, and found 13, since 13 is also greater than 10. All right? All right, good work. Now remember that first one, how we add things together. Let me just go back there for a moment. Remember this pattern. Var I equals 0, var sum equals 0, while I is less than x period length, sum plus equals x square brackets I plus plus. That is how you add together every number in an index, in an index, okay? Or in a list, sorry, not an index. Must say the right words. It's very important. Okay, we are going into lesson 10, traversals. Okay, remember your beautiful traversal machine. I don't think you really need it. I think everyone understands pretty well what we're doing with the traversals. Okay, so let me go through these first, and then we're going to go. We have about 4 or 5 breakout rooms today. So the first one, traversals investigate. Do this in groups of 4. Each student in the group gets a different letter, A, B, C, or D. The oldest person in the room gets A, the next oldest gets B, etc. So you're going to go to level 2, circle 2, read through the entire code. Each student focuses their attention on a single function. Reread the code for that function. Here are the functions. So for the A students, it is the function that averages. Those are lines 32 to 38. For the B students, this is looking for the slow time, lines 40 to 48. Student C, this function is looking for the fast time, lines 50 to 58. Hint, slow and fast times are calculated very similarly. Student D is looking at the numbered list display, lines 60 through 65. That's what we're going to do there. Discuss in your group, how does your function work? What list does it use? How is it traversed using a for loop? We'll discuss in class, so be ready to be called on. How does this app work? Then we are going to create a function that adds together the total time of every element in the list. Console log the result. Call this function in the update screen. Okay. Then we are going to move to the next step. Navigate to level 3 with your group. Read through the code and run the app. What looks new? Open the data tab. Investigate. How does it work? What information is available? What can you change? What can't you change? Investigate a few different data sets. Do this. Modify the code. Choose a data set and import it to your project. Look at the code. Check out the data drawer in the toolbox. Modify to print out a column of data from your chosen app. This will make more sense once you see the actual app. The last thing we're going to do is the random dog picker. You're going to navigate to level 4 with your team. Follow the directions on screen. Read the code very carefully. So in the class discussion, let me quickly show. In our module, there is a class discussion. Okay, so right here, U5L10 traversals investigate discussion. Just open this. This is at the end of class, not right now. When you're all in there, it's going to be about 10 minutes. What you're going to do is you're going to have that one person will be your secretary. One person will write down the answers to these questions and make sure everyone's full name is in the document. I cannot give people credit if their name is not in there. So make sure to list everyone in your breakout room. Okay? The secretary is going to be writing down what are the names of the 5 lists in this program. On what lines of code are the lists created? On what lines are the lists filled? That is referring to the filtered lists. People have been confused about what it means about the list being filled. We have these animal lists, and they are filtering those to create 2 new lists. So where are those new lists being populated? Okay, open up the data tab and click to view the dogs table. What columns does this app use? Look at the filter function. On what lines are the filtered lists reset to blank lists? What condition is being checked to determine if an element belongs in a filtered list? Okay, that is it. Then you're going to have the next one, Unit 5, L11, Traversals Practice for homework. All right, so you're going to have the whole long weekend for that. Let's get back to the beginning. Okay, remember, we are going into code.org circle 2 of U5L10. All right, you need to decide who's the oldest and who's going to get which piece of code. I would advise opening your presentation so that you have these slides to look at because I think the next one might be a help in your room. I think it actually tells you that. All right, I'm going to make breakout rooms, come on, of 4. Let's see how our numbers work out. Yeah, I would rather have rooms of 4 to 5 than 3 to 4, just because you are all working collaboratively, okay? Here we go. So we're going to have about 7 minutes on this first one. You're going to go in, you're going to assign who is an A, B, or C. You're going to look at the whole app, try and read the code and see what it does. Then you're going to look, as an A is going to look at the average function. How does that work? B, slow function. C, fast function. D, numbered list display function. Then we're all going to come back together and I will be asking you to explain how your function works. All right, here we go. It is right now 1:59. We will come back at about 2:07. All right.
Mr. Swift, I think you're muted.
Yes, yes, I am. Thank you so much. I won't make you answer it. Somebody who was an A, can you please explain how the average function works? Anyone?
It takes the mile times and then it divides it by the mile times list length to get your average mile time.
Okay, but let's be a little more thorough here. So just the idea that so in our function, we're creating total, right? We're evaluating it to 0. We've got our for loop, I gets 0. I is less than mile times dot length, the length of the list, right? I plus plus, it's advancing. The total equals is total plus miles I in square brackets. So what that's doing is just adding every single number in an index to our total. Then it's saying that average equals total divided by the length of the list, right? So that makes sense. That's how you get an average. You take the sum of all the numbers and divide them by how many numbers, okay? All of these are fairly similar. Okay, great job, thank you. So can a B explain the slow function? Anyone who is a B? Come on, brave bees. Okay, anyone who is a C would like to explain the fast function, and we'll modify the fast one to be a slow function. Come on, these aren't that bad. Nobody's feeling brave? Oh, just wait till I get my spinner working. Okay, let me walk us through this, all right? For the slow, to find out the slowest time, the weird thing is the slowest time is the biggest number, right? It's the highest number of seconds or minutes or whatever. So we have temp, we evaluate it to 0. We have our for loop, var gets I is less than miles length. We're getting the length of that list all the way through because we have 1 plus plus. Mile times square brackets I is greater than temp, all right? So whatever is greater, so if mile times is greater than temp, temp gets mile times at that index, okay? Whatever the bigger number is, temp is going to get that. And that is how it goes through the list and takes all the biggest numbers until it only has the biggest number. Then we're evaluating slowest with temp so that our slowest time is going to be there, okay? It is the exact same thing for the fast time, all right? Fast time is going to be smaller than temp as opposed to larger. It's the shortest time, the fastest time. Same thing, temp gets mile times I. Any number that is smaller than temp is going to be evaluated into it. So you will end up with the smallest number in temp, and that will be the fastest time. Now help me out here. Some nice person explain what the function numbered list display is doing. Florian, I don't know what you're talking about. The code is quite horrible. No notations explaining what the variables actually are. It's a variable. That's all it needs to be. It's a variable. It's created right there, right? That's not terrible. We are going
like
to,
what I
our variables are going to start changing from just I. You're going to have to get used to the idea that there are multiple variables. It doesn't particularly matter what their name is. Ideally, you are right that they should be.
No, what I mean is there's no comments, and like every time I get like on Canvas I get an assignment, there's always put a lot of comments everywhere explaining everything, and when they actually give us the codes, there's literally not a single comment in the whole code.
Right,
which then makes it harder to
not
interpret. Like if I
yet.
want to know what temp is, I have to figure out by looking at the code, not by, for example, looking at the comment, which makes adding a new function much harder than just by looking at the code.
Right.
With the
No, no,
comments.
I agree. But the reason for that is that this is not finished. You know, you are getting better and better in your skills, I hate to say. So code.org is taking away supports for you. You're having to figure this out on your own. It doesn't really matter what temp is, it's what you're putting in there, okay? So for the number list display, we have temp and we're evaluating it to nothing, right? Just 2 quotation marks, so that's gonna be blank, right? It could be var October, but as we say, ideally, your variable should mean something. So Florian has a real point that it's much easier when you understand what these are getting. So temp is empty. We have our for loop. If we're less than that, if that happens, temp gets temp plus the word mile with a space plus I plus 1. Because we're counting miles here, we never want I to just be 0, right? So it's always got to be plus 1. So you're going to get 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles. All right, it's not going to be 0 miles, 1 mile. Then you have mile times, and then you're going to drop a line. That's all that's doing. Then it's going to set text, miles output, and temp. That's all that's doing. It's just your concatenation, your variable string. Okay. Oop, help. Okay, so what we're going to do next is you are going to go in and create a function that adds together the total time of every element in the list. Okay, console log the result, call this function in the update screen function. Okay, you're going to create a function that adds together the total time of every element in the list. One thing to warn you, I don't think it's in this one, I think it's in the last one. They might not be giving you an if loop, and you may need to build that. Okay, so all you're doing here is you are adding everything together, very similar to our warm-up. We have 5 minutes, it's 2:13, we'll come back at 2:18. All right, let me, hey, that's not what I want. There's breakout rooms. Okay, in we go. 5 minutes. Modify with a partner. Create a function that adds together the total time of every element. Console log the result. Call this function in the update screen. Livia, Ken?
You're muted again.
I am muted. Here we are. Did that make sense for everyone? I know someone was a little confused. Can someone explain how you create that function? Well, actually here, I'm just going to cheat because we're a little short on time. So this is a little of Mr. Kaiser's code. But it's here. It's the idea of total time. It's going to be var total, var I, mile times length, total plus total miles. Again, it's going to be very similar. Oop, hang on. The only problem with this is that it only gets called once. So you have to put, I'm sorry, I'm not finding the right piece for you. There. So that's the whole piece. So total equals total plus mile times I, right? Console log total. That is how you create the code to get the total time. All right. We've got what, two?
They run theirs all the way at the top. I'm gonna just do this right next to mine. So
Oh, help, don't do that. Do not talk to me, Mr. Kaiser. Okay, we still have a couple things to get through here. So for the next one, you're gonna go to level 3 with your group. Read through the code, run the app. What looks new? Okay. Open the data tab. How does it work? Modify the code. Choose a data set and import it into your project. Look at the code. Check out the data drawer in the toolbox. Okay. Here we go. So that is circle 3. 5 minutes to investigate. It is 2:19. We will come out at 2:24.
You're muted.
Always good to know. The problem is the controls disappear on you. All right, so this is our last thing that we're going to be looking at. It's going to take about 10 minutes. Navigate to level 4 with a partner. Follow the directions on the screen. Read the code very carefully. This is the random dog picker. Now you're going to be using that discussion in the module. So open that up. One person is going to be your secretary. One person will write down the answers to all these questions, but is going to put all of your names on it. Everyone who is in your group needs to have their name on this, and it needs to be first name and last name, or at least first name and last initial. It takes me a lot to find people's names when there's only first names. And trust me, I am a slow enough grader as is. So you don't need that. So what are the names of the 5 lists in the program? On what lines of code are the lists created? On what lines of code are the lists filled? I've had a lot of questions about that. There are filtered lists that are taking names from the other lists. Where are those lists being populated? Where are the names that are being picked being put into the other list? How are these lists filled? Open the data tab and click to view the dogs table. What columns does this app use? Look at the filter function. On what lines are the filter lists reset to blank lists? What condition is being checked to determine if an element belongs in a filtered list? Okay, that is everybody. The next thing is just going to be our next module. So let me make sure. Yep. All right, so it is now 2:27. I will give us about 11 minutes. We'll go till 2:38, okay? Take a look at this, try and figure it out. We are gonna be using lists probably in that make. Good luck. Kareem, Olivia, Richard, Liv? Olivia?
You're muted again.
It changes sometimes. Thank you. Just saying, was everyone able to get their discussion done? Did that all make sense? Do we have everyone's names on them? Ideally, first name, last initial. I need a trail of breadcrumbs. Any questions on what you were trying to find in there? Does it all make sense how you're using that data tab and these kinds of lists and how the lists are arranged? The lists are all seem to be in sort of an Excel table that there are a bunch of values. To access any of the numbers in the list, you're using the number of the dog or whatever as the index. And it's saying that everything in that is a list attached to that index. Anybody have problems figuring out the conditions being checked to determine what belongs in a filtered list, how it was doing that? I know I had some questions on that before. It's the idea that it's looking for, it's like your early decision makers that, if it's under 50 degrees, you're going to wear pants. If it's over 50 degrees, you're going to wear shorts. The idea that it was looking for dogs 16 inches and under, and that somebody picked small to describe. Those are the kinds of things. We are done. Great day. It's a long weekend. Everybody get some rest. Get your fabulous apps, your app mind going. We're going to be doing our make on Tuesday, because Monday's President's Day. So we're all excited. Thank you, everyone. This was really good. There was a lot of work to be done here, but I think everyone is getting the idea. If you have trouble, look at those videos. Look at the last app. Look at the last 2 apps, okay? If you're really feeling rocky, watch them all. It really helps. You don't need to do anything. Just let them wash over you and see how he does the coding. What are the tricky parts? What are the patterns? All right?
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
I will try my hardest to have a lot of fun. Ethan, you there? Ethan?